Seam allowance. Cloth pretends to be simple. You can fold it, cut it, steam it into obedience, and it will still keep the memory of the hand that first touched it. Press a crease where you want it and another where you don't, and the fabric will keep both stories, waiting for the moment you're too tired to keep lying. I like that about textiles. You can feel where the truth is hiding if you run your palm the right way. I'm Theo. I make suits that let people inhabit their names. My studio sits above a bakery that believes butter is a political stance. In the mornings, I unlock the door to a room that smells like wool and steam and graphite, and I line up the things that steady me. Shears heavy enough to suggest violence but trained for tenderness. Chalk that snaps clean. A Japanese iron that exhales like a patient animal. I keep bolts of fabric stacked like promises, selvages facing out so every edge admits what it's meant to be. Maya says I make patience look indecent. She designs stage lighting for small theaters, which means we both earn a living convincing time to pose. We met when she needed a suit for a grant interview, and I offered to install a shoulder that wouldn't apologize. 3 years later, we live around a table that holds too many tape measures and a plant that keeps flirting with the window. We wrote 2 rules on the inside of our closet door with tailor's chalk. Say it before, not after. Our bed is ours. We rub the words out and rewrite them every few months, not because they change, but because vows deserve fresh handwriting. The bell on my door is a cheap, cheerful thing that thinks every entrance is a victory parade. The afternoon Valeria walked in, the sun had found that angle where dust looks like choreography. She wore a cream blouse the color of a fine excuse and high-waisted trousers that knew how to keep a room's attention without asking for permission. She took off her sunglasses and put them on the table with the care of someone used to objects behaving. "You're Theo," she said, "not a question. People keep telling me you can make cloth say yes to me." "I can persuade it," I said. "What does it think you're asking?" She smiled with the exact number of teeth required to make a rumor. "A suit," she said, as if nomming a lover. "Not for my husband, for me." I recognized the name on the appointment ledger, Valeria Koslov. The city had learned to say Koslov the way it says market opens, with a little thrill and a small dread. Her husband, Dmitry Koslov, was the venture alchemist who bought old warehouses and turned them into places where ambition could drink good coffee. There were photographs of them everywhere. His hand high on her back, her gaze looking somewhere behind the camera where the price of the room lived. "What do you want it to say?" I asked, lifting a bolt of midnight wool to the table. "That I don't wait at doors I own," she said, "and that I prefer the kind of beauty that returns the favor." I draped the cloth, let it fall. The fall of good wool is a moral argument. I grabbed my tape, my hands already mapping the air around her without touching her yet. "We can cut it close," I said. "Let the waist be precise and the shoulder be honest. A lapel that isn't shy, a vent that understands a stride." "And color?" she asked, sliding her fingers under the fabric as if introducing herself. "Black without apology is for funerals," I said. "Midnight is for making a choice you intend to keep. But if you want something that will haunt a corridor after you've left it, Smokewave Navy plays well with light." She tilted her head. "Haunt me." I wrote measurements in my head before I wrote them down. Shoulder to shoulder, hollow of throat to waist, side depth, the honest part of the hip. I paused, tape floating like a sentence that hadn't decided whether it was allowed. "May I asked." She shrugged one side of her blouse off her shoulder the way some people peel fruit, neat, unashamed. The tape slid from clavicle to scapula with the precision of a kiss that had read the manual. The warmth of her skin surprised me, not the heat itself, but the way my own palm answered it, A flash of conductivity I pretended was just electricity doing what electricity does. I kept my eyes on my work. She kept hers on my mouth. Fabric remembers, so do eyes. We scheduled the first fitting for Friday. She thanked me by name like she was pinning it somewhere she could find it later. When she left, the room kept her. A tiny wake of scent that wasn't innocent. Something with iris in the heart and a cedar base, clean and disobedient. I made a chalk ghost of the pattern and began to cut. Maya came home late, hair up, the kind of tired that earns itself. We ate in our socks and she propped her chin on her fist. "Did you fall in love with a sleeve today?" she asked. "With an idea," I said. "A woman who wants a suit that behaves like a door she can open with a thought." Maya glanced at the closet at the words already fatting. I leaned my head against her shoulder and told her Valeria's name anyway, because the point of the rule is not drama, it's clean air. "Before," I said, out loud, letting it be the safe word we designed it to be. "I want her to be the person she insists she is, and I want to see the face she makes when the mirror finally believes." She circled my wrist with her fingers and squeezed once. "Keep our bed ours," she said. "Bring me the heat you don't spend." The first fitting is always a negotiation with ghosts. My ghost pattern against her living shoulder, the basted seams behaving like temporary vows. The jacket hung on her like a secret that hadn't decided whether to be told. I pinned the back seam, not quite touching the line of her spine, feeling the heat of her through the cloth. She exhaled, a long, slow ribbon of sound. "You're very careful," she murmured. "I'm slow until I'm sure," I said. "Then I'm ruthless." "Does your partner enjoy that?" she asked. "Not a test, a new category." "She installed the rule," I said. "I learned to love its grammar." She turned her head and looked at me over her shoulder. "Before." "Before," I said. We kissed 2 days later, not in the studio. In the hallway after we'd stood too long beside the elevator pretending it wasn't broken. The building had the good manners to smell like bread and dust. It was a soft kiss, neat, exploratory, a tasting spoon dipped and returned. Her mouth was clean and warmer than mine. For a show of restraint, it broke several laws. I texted Maya from the stairwell before I kissed a client. It was the kind that makes the air choose sides. The dots came and went. Come home with clean hands. Keep the air on our side. The second fitting, I cuffed the trousers and watched the way the fabric learned her cadence. She stood on the small platform and looked down at me while I knelt, pinning the brake. I'm not a man who kneels often. The floor creaked like a witness. She slid her shoe forward into my palm to stabilize herself, the leather cool against my skin. My breath shortened and deepened in the unscientific way. She smiled like we were both in on a joke neither of us would explain to a jury. "Wear it to your husband's fundraiser," I said, "to give the room a plot that wasn't just ours. The lapel will make donors feel like they're helping gravity do something interesting." "Our annual gala of intentions," she said dryly. "That's what they call it. Dmitri invites the city to admire its own haircut." He arrived the next afternoon to approve the tailoring. Dmitri Koslov had the expression of a man who has never stood in a line he didn't create. He shook my hand with his eyes on the bolts of fabric and not my face. Valeria's back was straight, her chin an angle that pleased Euclid. He paid with a card that weighed more than some of my scissors and asked for a slight adjustment in the shoulder for the camera. "For the woman," I said, "the camera will follow." He laughed as men in rooms laugh when they suspect they've been outflanked by hospitality. He left a tip on the table that felt like a dare. When he was gone, Valeria rounded on me, eyes bright, one hand on the basting like she planned to rip the jacket off and leave it there. "You don't perform for him," she said, as if she'd found a door that didn't squeak. "I don't perform for anyone," I said. "I just put the seams where they make sense." "And where do you put them when the body doesn't make sense?" she asked. "Where it remembers relief," I said, surprising both of us. We didn't pretend what would happen next was accidental. We booked a room in a building with brick that had decided not to apologize for its age. In the elevator, we stood too far apart until the doors closed. Then we failed at our performance with a small laugh that tasted like relief. In the room, we didn't hurry. We hung her jacket on the back of a chair like an altar we intended to return to. I undid buttons as if they were translations. She slid her blouse over her head like a line break. "I won't map her body for you. That kind of cartography is a betrayal. I'll say this. She was exacting and generous, and we learned each other as if we'd been assigned a duet we both wanted to perform the rest of our lives. My hands did the work they always do, finding seams, letting what needs to open without tearing. When she came apart, it was with her eyes open, as if refusing to miss what she'd chosen. After sheet tangled and the city insisting it had other appointments, she lay with her head on my chest. "He's fooling around," she said evenly. "I confirmed it a month ago with the kind of phone bill that makes lawyers hungry. He prefers someone who treats him like a prize and a weather system." "I'm not an alibi," I said, because the rule on our closet door had taught me to respect plain nouns. "I don't want you to be," she said. "I want you to do to my life what you do to cloth." "What's that?" I asked. "Cut away what makes it hang wrong," she said. "Leave enough seam that if I change my mind I can let it out." The fundraiser lived up to its name. A hotel ballroom pretending to be a cathedral. Photographers who had figured out how to flirt with light without making it mad. She walked in wearing the suit as if the fabric had been born for her bones, and the room graciously changed its mind about who owned it. Dimitri did the circuit. Handshakes, that particular tilt of the head that says, "I knew you when your building was cheaper." He put his palm high on Valeria's back and guided her as if anyone could guide a tide. I stayed near the bar where the good ice lives, pretending to be the help. I prefer believing in doors I can open when I like. Valeria met my eyes once and then behaved like discipline. Her mouth made a shape I don't know the word for in any language I speak. That night she didn't come to me. She sent a message instead. "He's angry at the suit. He can't say why. I wore something that didn't need him. I won't be punished for good tailoring." I took a long shower and went home to Maya. We lay on the floor and let the boards cool our skin. "I don't want to be anyone's bad idea," I said into the dark. "Then don't," she said. "Bring back what you like about yourself. Leave the rest where they keep the unused cutlery." The next day, Dimitri walked into my studio without Valeria. He looked around like a man checking the exits on a plane he would like to own. "I'd like a suit," he said, "for me." "You can book an appointment," I said, "like everyone else." His smile was the exact width of a knife's second thought. "I prefer now," he said, taking a seat, making himself heavier than the chair intended. He pulled out his phone and began reading names aloud the way some men recite psalms. Council members, editors, donors who own the kind of art that keeps secrets. This wasn't a list. It was a fence. "We could do good business," he said. "I don't need your business," I said calmly. "I already do good work." His eyes changed color. "Good," he said. "Keep doing it for my wife." "That's her decision," I said, "not yours." He left without breaking anything, which felt like a trick. When Valeria came that afternoon, she brought the jacket and a bruise at the curve of her upper arm that looked like a fingerprint trying to learn calligraphy. She didn't explain it. She didn't need to. "Do you want me to fix it?" I asked, palm hovering. She lifted her chin. "The jacket." The bruise, I said. No, she said. Let it be honest. But add a hidden button here, she said, tapping the inside of the lapel. Just for me. Something I can hook when I need to remember I can lock a door. I sewed the button in with silk thread the color of private courage. We stood too close while the steam rose, two animals pretending the room was less alive than it was. We met once more, not in a room with a number. In my studio, after I'd pulled the shades and turned off the iron with the city already yawning. The table bore witness without taking sides. We kissed with the purity of thieves who return everything they didn't mean to keep. We didn't unravel completely. We stayed dressed enough to recognize ourselves. When we were done, she laughed once quietly, that soft bark of a person who has decided something. What did you decide? I asked. That I will leave, she said. Not because I need you to catch me, because I need to feel what I weigh without someone's hand on my back. Do you want help moving the heavy furniture? I asked, and we both knew I meant it and that she didn't need me for it. No, she said, but I'll keep the hidden button. She did leave. The city rebalanced around the news like a diner refilling someone else's water glass. Dmitri posted photos of his new dog and his new foundation. Valeria moved into a place with stairs that taught your thighs their own names and windows that let afternoons take their time. She sent me a picture of the suit hanging on the back of a chair, light falling across the lapel like it had been assigned that duty by a benevolent god. Thank you for making armor that breathes, she wrote. I printed the photo on cheap paper and taped it inside the closet door next to our rule. The chalk words were smudged again, so I wrote them fresh. Before, our bed is ours. Maya brought home a bag of peaches and a look that belonged in summer. We ate over the sink like teenagers who had finally learned how to be kind. I told her everything I had to tell and nothing that would make our sheets remember something they didn't need. She kissed the corner of my mouth like a signature and said, "Keep being the man who cuts clean. Don't bring me the pieces you didn't want in the first place." At the end of the day, I sweep threads into a tin that used to hold cookies. The good threads I keep. The rest I burn carefully in a little bowl, letting the smoke write its brief argument. I hang suits that need breath, wipe the iron's face, lay the shears down so the blades don't become arrogant. I lock the door and stand for a second with my ear against the wood, listening for the noises that mean the room will still be there in the morning. Cloth lies, but it lies well on your behalf with your consent for your purpose. It forgives the needle even when it bleeds a little. It remembers the shape of a shoulder that stood up for itself. When I press a seam open and feel the wool relax under steam, I think of all the people I've dressed into their decisions. Some of them go home to beds that are theirs. Some don't. The best I can do is cut away what doesn't fit, leave a little extra at the edges for generosity, and stitch with a hand steady enough that, when someone hooks a hidden button in a quiet hallway, they feel the right kind of yes.